Here it is, the end of another month. It is the end of August, which means for the month of September, Brandon is going to be getting the Fiesta ST for a month. So, since this is really my first full month with the car, since I had it in June for 2 weeks, this is my first opportunity to really kind of give you guys feedback on what it's been like with the car for an extended period. Now, in the past month, I've been in the United States Coast Guard Parade in Grand Haven. I've taken it to Dalton, New Hampshire for the Team O'Neill Riley School, which included 8 states in 5 days, which I think of almost a little over 4,000 miles worth of driving. Been down to Gingerman Raceway to spectate since I wasn't running, but overall I've just been driving back and forth to work every day. So here's some thoughts on it. Overall, I really like this car. I liked it beforehand, but actually living with it for a full month, I've learned that I really, really, really like the car. I love it a lot more than I even did before. The amount of power the car has to get around traffic, to climb up the mountains in New Hampshire and Vermont, to play around on the twisty roads, everything that I'd want in a compact car, this thing seems to be able to do. Commuting back and forth to work every day, I've been averaging about anywhere from 31 to 33 miles per gallon, depending on kind of how spirited some of my drives are in the morning, and if the AC is running and the temperature. But for the most part, 31 to 33, which is actually slightly better than I'm getting with my 2011 Fiesta, so I'm really happy about that. Concerning living with this car as a daily driver, I have some people online that have asked, how suitable is it? Personally, I find it to be great for a daily driver. I don't see any reasons why it wouldn't be. The suspension, of course, is stiff, but it's a performance car. What do you expect? If you want a soft ride, go buy a 12-year-old Crown Victoria or something like that. This isn't a car that it's going to have a soft, mushy ride. It's going to have a performance ride. That's what the car's meant to do. It's meant to go around corners and be for a spirited driver. If you're not one of those guys, this probably isn't the car for you, but you wouldn't be looking at the ST if you weren't. So, otherwise, no real problems really driving it daily. The seats are comfortable, of course, and there's no better way to know how comfortable a seat is than go visit 8 states in 5 days and sit in this thing and drive for 10, 12 hours at a time. And I could say that I actually have less fatigue and less muscle pain driving this for extended periods of time than I do with even my 2011 Fiesta. And I think a lot of that has to do with this bolstering on the by my legs. I think that's really a big part of it. Usually a 6-hour road trip would give me some slight knee discomfort by always having to keep pressure on my leg to keep it centered instead of like trying to flop over, because there really isn't a lot of bolstering on the bottom of the regular Fiesta seat. That's not the case with the Recaro seats in the ST. They have large bolsters which really help support the sides of your legs, so you can kind of allow your leg to relax, pull some pressure off your knee, and it doesn't want to flop around. So you actually end up with less aches and pains in this, what some say is a very restrictive seat. Well, if your body's not flopping all over the place and you're able to stay situated and let the seat do its job of holding you in rather than forcing your muscles to hold you into the seat, it's actually a lot less fatiguing. I noticed the headrest is a little tilted forward. I really didn't have too much of a problem with it. My wife, when she had a ponytail, she would complain about that kind of being an issue. It kind of comes with the nature of a seat that doesn't have an opening in the back here. So that kind of happens. She went with me on the road trip out to Team O'Neill Rally School. And so the two of us really had a good opportunity to kind of see what works in the car and what doesn't. Really, very little didn't work that we had problems with. I would say the navigation, it worked pretty well. We had some times in which our TomTom that we use as a backup would find a road that the GPS in the car wouldn't find, and other times the GPS in the car would find a spot we needed to go that the TomTom wouldn't. So we kind of used both of them together, and pretty much both routes worked well, didn't have any issues. The only thing that I don't like about having a built-in navigation system is you can make very little changes when you're moving. Now, as being the driver, I'm not going to put a lot of time into trying to fiddle around with the buttons, so I wouldn't even attempt that anyway. Even on the TomTom, I'm not really going to attempt that. But when I have a passenger, when I have my wife riding with me, she can bring up stuff on the screen or on the TomTom and make changes. You can't make changes on the factory system. at least that we could find. We didn't play around with it too much, but we found that we couldn't really get into all the buttons and things when the vehicle was actually in motion. So maybe just a little bit more time working with it. Maybe there are stuff I can do. I didn't really explore that. Having Sirius XM on a trip is great. Having the USB where you can plug right into your iPhone and play was great. Bluetooth worked most of the time, which is kind of a my Ford Touch issue that we have with our Escape as well. But really, overall, no problems. She also noticed that the seats were decent and held up well. She brought an extra pillow. She noticed that some of this area back here seemed a little tight on her, but with a small, real small little airplane pillow type thing, kind of relieves some of that pressure, and she was fine with it. We had no problems really with the long road trips. We got about 34, 35 miles to the gallon, which is very impressive for a car that's got close to 200 horsepower. So no issues there at all. We even climbed Mount Washington with the car, and that was a little bit of a scary drive, but it was a lot of fun having the Fiesta ST going up to the top of the mountain. The roads were, of course, very narrow, and there's a cliff on one side and a hill, a mountainside on the other. So it was kind of an interesting drive, but the Fiesta really handled the roads just fine, and we had a blast driving it up and down there. So I would say overall, the car does everything that I'd want it to do. It is powerful. It is fun to drive. It gets very good fuel economy considering the amount of power and torque this thing has. It is great. It's comfortable. It's extremely quiet. It's much quieter than my 2011, but then again, I have a different intake exhaust, and I've done a lot of things to it, so that's why that car is significantly louder than this one. But that happens when you take the mufflers away and replace them with a racing setup, so that's understandable. But overall, yeah, for a month of driving and living with the car, I'm very impressed. I really don't have any complaints. The armrest and we don't get along very well, but even on the trip, we didn't really seem to have any trouble with it. In actuality, what was kind of nice is when we stopped somewhere and we wanted to throw our little TomTom GPS and the wires and everything, we could just throw them right in the armrest there, and then they were fine instead of having to reach over and put them in the glove box like I do in my other car. So that actually seemed to work out fairly well. Yeah, the car did well. I'm really happy with it. Living with it for a month and putting that many miles on it, no complaints. The only downfall was I didn't get a chance to drive it on the gravel at the Team O'Neill Rally School. I chickened out at the last minute knowing that I still had to get back home, and I know that sometimes gravel can be kind of sharp, and screwing around on gravel with a car that you got to get back home again, and I didn't have any replacement tires, was a little scary. So I decided in the end to go for a ride in Rena's car instead, her rally car, rather than taking the ST out on course. Also, it meant a lot less cleaning when I got back home because I wasn't pulling mud out of every single corner of this car. So, and also no stone chips or anything like that either. But otherwise, thumbs up on the ST for the 1 month review. I'm going to miss it for the month of September, but at least I got my 2011 to drive and a Mustang, so I'm pretty cool, but I'm looking forward to October. We got some other big plans coming up for the month of October, so make sure you subscribe to the BRGT350 YouTube page. Check us out on fiestamovement.com, Agent BRGT350, and keep your eye out for what other exciting stuff we have coming, but actually 2 thumbs up on the Fiesta ST for the month of August, so we'll catch you guys later.